What I found out by being so blessed to be on A&E in the show intervention is that this is a family disease. Every single addict and alcoholic is affected by 100 people whose lives are being controlled by this addiction. So what I'm really here to tell you is that there's hope. This is the one disease that tells you you don't have it, and if you stop doing what you're doing, that you can have a life like mine that you never dreamed of. So by you being here today, you're kind of the little miracle group. You have to take what you learned today, take the facts, take the feelings, take the emotions of you sitting here today and spread the joy. Not everybody is as lucky to be here as you are. So take this magical moment that you are sharing with friends and sharing with your school and take it to the people who aren't there so they know there's hope for them. We're trying to stop this epidemic and stop all of you from thinking that it isn't going to affect you, because it affects every single person who loves somebody who's addicted or becomes addicted themselves. So I got the blessing. I get to be the voice and the face of recovery. And who knew when I stopped drinking 27 years ago that I'd get to be here with you today. Thanks. Said that he had been offered pot by an older brother of a student of his. Now, me being me, of course I was going to get in the car and go strangle the kid. But instead, I said, you are beginning the process of having to make grown-up decisions about saving your own life. I'm not ever going to be behind you on every type of situation that happens. But there was a crowd of kids in his high school that smoked pot, and they did seem a little happier and a little hipper. And I just told him he could be hip or he could be living on the street. Because I do believe that when you start that kind of lying, cheating, and stealing at that young of an age, nothing good is going to come of it. So I think there's a challenge to think that you are bigger than the drug. And I have terrible news to tell you, you're not. It's bigger than you are. A realization that you are kind of out of control with a chemical substance that you've never had before. And it's a foreign feeling. So maybe that's the high, but I don't think people continue to do it trying to get back to square one. I think people do it because they are psychologically and physically addicted to it. And makes you thin.
I want to say that it's hard to test that with science because you're asking people to go back and recall their first experience. It's not like I'm going to bring you into the lab and give you drugs and say, how did that feel to you? And then give you drugs again. I mean, you can't give somebody who's never had drugs for the first time and test them. It's just not ethical. So a lot of times we rely on people's reports of past experiences. So we really don't know what the science might say about it, but we do know, of course, the longer you take a drug and the more you take, you do become tolerant. So that could be part of it, where people remember that first experience and they might be tolerant to it now, so they're reporting that first experience was so intense because now they've become used to the drug.
I remember smoking that cigarette, and I think it just looked so grown up to me. And I will tell you, as I stand here as a 64-year-old woman who is a drug and alcohol expert, it was the hardest thing I ever stopped. And I didn't stop it for till almost 2.5 years. What I've seen is you have a 45-year-old man that started drinking alcohol and smoking pot at 14, and I have a 14-year-old emotionally stunted person who is so immature that it's very, very difficult for them to get sober. So you stop growing emotionally if you pick up something that alters your mind. So it doesn't ever put you back into reality. I don't know what's going to happen with this whole marijuana thing. I don't. But all I can tell you is if it's been illegal for this long, it can't be good for you.
Obviously, there is a lot of confusion out there because some states are legalizing marijuana, but marijuana is addictive. There are risks associated with it. It is a drug. And unfortunately, what happens with teens, as Dr. Mineta had mentioned, When you think a drug is less harmful, the usage goes up. And research has shown that. So that's our concern, especially with teens. So we want to make sure teens get the message that, especially for you, marijuana is addictive and it is a drug. By inhaling or injecting, the drug gets to your brain faster, so that causes a more intense rush, which is a problem. I know it sounds like, okay, this sounds great, but it's not, because drugs that are abused in that route become very addictive. Some of you have probably heard that crack is so addictive, or that injecting heroin is so addictive. It's because the faster the drug reaches your brain, the more you're going to become addicted to it. And so you've probably heard, and I'm not sure if this is true, but if you try crack one time, you're addicted to it. It's the route of administration. Tobacco smoke, it reaches your brain very fast. Nicotine in tobacco is very addictive. But any route you take it, obviously, is going to have health effects. So when it comes to addiction, that causes a higher degree of addiction.
Docs don't talk about is that, these synthetic opiates like Oxycontin and Vicodin and Loratab and all the rest of these, when you take them for a long amount of time and you actually have pain, and then you heal from that pain and you continue to take them and then you stop them, you have a manifestation called rebound pain. And your body manifests, a very high level of pain so that you will continue to take this medication. And that and benzodiazepines, as far as Valium and Xanax and Ativan, and those, if you've taken those for a long amount of time, I have to tell you, you got a long road ahead of you to detox. It's a very painful detox, particularly if you've abused it. And you just can't get up one morning and stop. You will be sick. The process of intervention is to heal the family and to get help for the addict. And I don't even know what the percentages are. I know the show has an immense success record. And between 76 and 78% of people are sober today that have been intervened on the show. But I think that's because everybody knows who they are. If you're videotaped getting high and then you're videotaped getting well, I highly suggest you stay well. Where I come from in my age group was the beginning of all this acceptance of smoking pot. And the first time I ever smoked pot, it actually wasn't pot, it was rope, because Kansas was the #1 producer of hemp, which is what rope is made out of for World War II. So I wasn't too tickled with it, but what you have to understand is there was 3% THC back in the 60s and 70s, and now all this hybrid, hydroponic, strawberry flavored, kid chronic, God's sakes, cookie dough ice cream chronic, very creative. And don't tell me that's for terminally ill people. I don't think they're asking for a kid chronic. So I think we're just going to have to wait, but you don't have to be a part of the people that wait.
Being a 50-50 thing. So about 50% of it is genetics and 50% environment. If you have a history in your family of drug abuse, including alcohol and tobacco, then it's likely that you might have the genes that make you more what we call susceptible to responding to these drugs and becoming addicted to them. But you realize that has a lot to do with environment too. It's whether your parents use it, you're exposed to these drugs. Your friends and family obviously have a big influence. We talked about peer pressure. Your friends, what they feel about the drug, they have a even if you do have the genes, that doesn't mean that you're going to use the drug. There's also the impact of environment.
If scientists and doctors know that marijuana is addictive and has high risk, how come they use it for glaucoma and stuff with your eyes?
When you take marijuana, first of all, it's smokable, and smoking a drug is not a good idea. The other thing is, with marijuana as well as with other drugs, what scientists try to do is they try to take out the part that's beneficial without giving you the other parts that have bad side effects. There are what we call carcinogens in marijuana. You've probably heard of that with tobacco. So there are agents in there that have been shown to cause cancer. But if we can take out the component of marijuana that might be beneficial and only give that to people, you won't have the addictive potential and you won't have these other side effects. So when we talk about medications, we're really talking about, with marijuana and any other drug, taking out the part that helps you, whether it's glaucoma and that sort of thing, or relieve pain with the opioids, and not have these really bad side effects. Science does show that teens that begin marijuana use as a teen, as they continue their use into adulthood, you actually see a decrease in IQ of 8 points. And that may not sound like a lot to many of you, but that actually is quite significant. So for teens, we're especially worried because marijuana, we do have these short-term effects. I mean, if you're smoking marijuana, it is going to interfere with your academic performance and also your athletics. It interacts, or it affects the parts of your brain that it affects the connectivity of your brain. So the areas of your brain that are involved in learning and memory aren't able to communicate with the others. So it does have immediate effects, but recent research has just shown that it does have long-term effects. So you're really messing with your future if you use marijuana as a teen.
And when Dr. Bias' mission is to inspire and bring forth positive messages to young people just like yourselves, so you can move past the pain and challenges and hardships that life may offer to you. Her insightful and thoughtful, provoking messages encourage young people and adults to reach new horizons in their personal development and their outlook. Please join me in welcoming a phenomenal woman and someone I'd like to call my friend, Dr. Lonise Bias.
All this week here, we've been featuring our series of reports on those who are making a difference. Tonight, we meet a woman who has turned the loss of 2 children into an attempt to save others. NBC's Tiki Barber, who we're used to seeing on the Today Show, reported this story for us tonight.
Really take a community.
It's a message of hope.
They're reachable, teachable, lovable, and savable.
Spread by one mother.
We've got to step it up!
Who suffered the ultimate loss.
There seems to be a sense of hopelessness, but hope is not extinct.
It's been more than 20 years now since Lonise Bias learned that lesson for herself.
Bias from outside, and he got it. Lynn Bias with 29. Oh my! And he made a steal in the jam! What a play by Bias! Holy cow!
There have been great players in our conference, but there have been 2 that were above the rest in my mind. One was Michael Jordan, and the other was Lynn Bias.
He just does everything. Bias weaving his magic, puts it up and in.
Woo, baby, I love Mr. Bias. I think his game was even better suited for the NBA with the transition game and a 24-second clock and up and down the floor where he would have been a star.
If any moment in sports celebrates potential and announces promise, it's the moment your name is called.
The Boston Celtics select Len Bias of the University of Maryland.
There was no question that this kid had the heart and the talent to do something. And that probably made it worst of all, because he's there, everything you've dreamed of, and then all of a sudden, boom.
Within 48 hours, Lynn was dead from a cocaine overdose. Started out as substance abuse, but unfortunately, tragedy kept following you.
That's right.
4 years later, your son Jay was murdered.
Yes.
2 sons lost in 4 years, one to drugs, the other to gun violence.
When you lost 2 sons, you think the whole world is gone. Like I said, what happened to my life?
Yeah.
What happened to my life?
But from her grief grew a strength and a calling. Lonise gave up her job as a banker to dedicate her life to working with young people. She uses her personal story to talk to kids and parents about everything from drugs to self-esteem to peer pressure.
She's able to transcend struggles and to say, I'm going to give back.
I believe in you.
This is a group of young men going through a substance abuse program in Youngstown, Ohio.
The temptation is going to come over and over and over again.
Lonise figures she's spoken to tens of thousands of students all across the country, sharing her family's story. Most know who Lynn was, and she believes that through her, Lynn is doing more in death than he could have in life.
Is he proud of what you're doing?
I believe he is. I know he is.
What would he say to you?
Well done, Ma.
One mother's purpose born out of tragedy.
Take good care of yourself.
Tiki Barber, NBC News, Fort Washington, Maryland.
What I have learned is that if Len Bias had lived, he would have been an entertainer, made a lot of money. But in death, he was a seed that went down into the ground to bring forth life. So I feel that he has done more in death for this nation than he could have ever done in life. It is indeed an honor and a privilege to be here and to have a few minutes to share with you. When Len died, I thought that my life was completely over. I begged to die. I did not want to live. And when my second son died, I just thought my life was over. But what I found out, as some of our other speakers have shared in terms of the hardships that they have endured, is that the hardship that you go through, you come forth to help other people. Some people go through to show other people how to get through. And I truly believe that Len has done more in death for this nation than he could have ever done in life. Speaking from a parent's perspective, many times people ask me, what would you have done what could you have done different from Len using this drug for the first time? And I say this over and over and over again, and that is that the decision is his. I saw Whitney Houston's mother, Cissy Houston, on TV the other morning. And the one thing she kept driving home as they kept talking to her about Whitney's addiction was that Whitney made her own decisions. And today, what I would drive home to you, as many of the other speakers have said, when you make a decision, that decision is just not about you and your peers. That decision will bring your entire family, your friends, other people will be affected by that decision that you make. One point that I would like to make about Len's death that I talk about over and over again is this. It is so important today to know who you are as young people and to value yourselves. I believe that Len Bias would be alive today had he chosen the right group to belong to. I believe that my son is dead today because he had deadly friends. Whenever you are trying to preserve your life, and that's what this conference is about this day, is the preservation of your lives. Talking to you about the importance of making good, healthy decisions. And we're here talking about don't just go along to get along. I have dealt with young people for 27 years, and what I have found is so many of them make poor decisions that they really don't want to be bothered with. They just go along to get along. I would like to quote this as a subtle bullying. You have your peers, you see what everyone else is doing, and you say, never me. But you're the champion. You're the gift. The best is yet to come. As our speaker said before, it's not worth it trying a drug one time. It is not worth it. Drugs are a dream killer. Know this, the best is yet to come. I'm excited about this program today. I'm excited about every last one of you that are seated here today, because you are the generation that I believe will move forth in the things that have to be, that will move forth in the areas of change. I was interviewed as a result of this program twice this week, and one question kept coming up. Dr. Bias, why are we still having problems with young people and drugs? And I said, the key is this. What I have seen in 27 years is that we have built an entire infrastructure in this nation dealing with the results and the outcomes of alcohol and drugs. And we need those infrastructures. But we have not become serious enough about prevention in this nation. And everything that we put on the end, all of the programs, so many different programs that are going on, some of that energy on the end has to be put on the front, and that is prevention. Len Bias died 27 years ago. You are this nation's greatest natural resource, our future. Our future is in your hands. It's not follow the yellow brick road, skippity hoppity, no. No, you're greater than that. Have you ever heard such wonderful questions coming from teens? You're intelligent, you're bright, you're vibrant. Don't give up on life and throw in the towel and say, I'm going to try this because everyone else is doing it. You are better than that. You are better than that. Know your consequences that you will deal with. There is a consequence. You will reap what you sow. Never think that it will always be someone else. The cemeteries, the addiction centers, hospitals, and what about young people that are in wheelchairs? What about young people that are in mental institutions today that said it would never be me? When you say never, mean it. Know that the best is yet to come. You are champions. Every one of you beautiful, precious young people in here is a champion. The C in champion stands for being consistent, compassionate, and having a conviction and being committed to taking care of yourself and preserving your life. Life is not easy. Life is like a bowl with lemon and honey in it. Sometimes it can be sweet and sometimes it can be bitter. No man can make it up the smooth side of the mountain, only the rough side. And the rough side and the hard times that you deal with, that's where your character is developed. That's where you're built up. When someone comes to you and say, hey, try this, it's no power in going along to get along. Do you know how you find out what power you have? When you resist the temptation to say yes. That's how you find out what you're made out of. Everyone that laughs and grins in your face is not your friend. Know that you're a champion. Be consistent. Be committed. Be convicted. And have compassion not only for yourself, but for your peers. Do you understand your peers are waiting on someone to get it right? Your peers are waiting for someone to have the courage to stand up and lead them in a different direction. The best is truly yet to come. And we believe in you. You can do it. My company is B Speaks. And B Speaks is a life investment company. And our product is hope. And I hope in you. I believe in you. The best is yet to come through you.
Is it true what they say about if you're younger when you stop, that really helps? Especially with the case of your son, you know, if you could have stopped, he could have lived.
Well, from what the autopsy showed and from what people said around Len used this drug one time and it killed him. It took his life, cocaine. He ingested cocaine and it killed him that one time. One time. It's not worth it.
Pain to give us the motivation of not using drugs and to express what happened through you and your son's life. And a question from my mom, she wanted to know, from her being a drug user as well, she wanted to know from Lonise Bias, was it pure coke that he died from?
You will always have a time in your life where it's the good life. Things are going pretty well, you know, you're just dealing with life. That's the way it was with us. Len was getting ready, was playing ball and in college, and we were just going along, and then it looked like he would be drafted for the NBA. That was the good life. And then one morning, we received a phone call, and then the nightmare began. And in your life, you will have a good life, you will have a nightmare, but also know in the nightmares that there is life after death. Life after death in whatever situation you're going through, and that's how I stand here today. Now, I meet mothers every day that have lost children that are out of their mind with grief, and I see mothers that stand like me. And the only reason why I stand today is because I know with all of my heart this was a God-given mission. I was given the strength through my faith to stand, and this is my mission in life, is to encourage mankind and stand here after I have drunk from two of the most bitter cups, and to see life and to still inspire and believe in young people. It is because of my faith that I stand here. You just can't get up one day, lose 2 children, and say, oh, let me go and save the world. To heck with the world. What happened to my life? So it is my faith that has given me strength to believe and encourage young people and adults alike today.
A lot of it comes down to you. What do you want to do with the information that you have? Do you feel as though you value yourself enough to resist the temptation?
How could I speak ugly to you when I was yet to speak it to myself? In these nightmares of hindsight, there is no poetry. No alliterations to soften the blow. Some realities have no simile. Truth is like truth. How could I form my lips to tell you that your suicide was a tragedy when you were alone in that room, kept company by narcotics and 1,000 ghosts draped in your disappointments? I can only imagine all the voices you heard, all but mine. Smear makeup on the disgust if you must. Trust the truth is seldom pretty, but she is always beautiful. It is in times like these that I need you to please talk ugly to me. My pain needs it. Too many times we caress sadness when it needs to be shaken, torn from its place of comfort, forced to grow wings to survive or die. Just don't tell me I can grow up and be whatever I want. Tell me that whatever I want better be something I'm willing to achieve, that dreams will dissipate under the weight of addiction, and that there's a distinct difference between living like a rock star and actually being one. Sometimes, no matter how many poems you have written, you were just a cokehead and a poser. Fear not. We are all divinely flawed individuals, perfectly ugly. No point hiding behind pretty lies. We are the sum of the hideous scars that hold together the remainder of our pretty pieces. The last time I saw you alive, I wish I would have talked ugly to you. It would have been the most beautiful thing I never said. Thank you.
Coming up first, y'all put your hands together for Chris Ortega.
The moment you hit my face, the moment you raised your hand, it hit my face like it just giving the final decision on a court case. I lost respect. The pain felt like a million needles piercing the faint amount of strength I had left from seeing my brother murdered cold-bloodedly by mistake. I know I've made mistakes, but my rebellious state was no reason for you to break the bonds we had made.
Next up, we got Jesse, and y'all might not be able to see, but he is rocking some amazing boots right now. So if you have a chance to check out Jesse's boots, you will not be disappointed. Anyway, y'all give it up for Jesse.
I cry in silence, just drowning in my sorrows, cutting just to see the crimson river flow. Afraid my scars will just bleed out, showing a heart that's shattered, torn, and being held together with stitches, broken. I abuse and use because I was used and abused. Now I accuse and abuse my toxic tonic for my problems. All because someone used and abused me.